Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Crystal Hall. Crystal Hall is brought to you by Gibson's. It's for 2 to 4 players, ages 10 and up, and games range anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. In Crystal Hall, you'll be leading an adventuring guild of wizards into the infinite forest, looking for the magical crystals of power, and whoever gets all 4 different crystals will be the ultimate wizard faction of the land. So here's what a typical setup will look like. You're going to take your particular set of wizards and put them on the edge of the board next to their appropriate color. You have dice. This 6-sided dice will be applied to certain spell effects in the spell deck over here. And then you have some tokens, which you have shield tokens, you have curse tokens, and freeze tokens. And then you have your different crystal types that you'll be collecting to win the game. And then in the middle of the board, you have your magic tokens placed face down. And they all have appropriate backs, so you know where to place them. You're going to mix them up and put them out on the board. And these tiles can be good things, they can be bad things, you just don't know. So each turn is divided into 4 phases. You have the gather phase, you have the magic phase, which is really kind of the meat of the game. You have the discover phase, and then you have the card draw phase. So the first step in your turn is the gather phase. And really you're looking to see if any of your wizards are standing on a cauldron, are they standing on a swamp tile, or are they standing on one of the 4 different types of crystals. So if they're on a cauldron, you're going to get an extra action point or magic point for the next phase of the turn. If you're standing on a swamp, you're going to get a -1 action point or magic point for your next phase as well. So the ultimate thing you want to be standing on, though, is those crystal spots. So this is where you would be gathering crystals at the start of your turn if you ended up there by chance without anybody pushing you around or doing terrible magic things to you. And then your next phase is, like I said, this is the heart of the game. This is where we're going to be doing most of the things that you can do in this game. The thing here is that you use those magic points that I mentioned before. You have 4 of them to start. So again, there's all kinds of ways to augment that if you're on cauldrons or if you're on swamps and so forth. There are different aspects in the magic deck that might give you more cards as well. We'll take a closer look at the magic decks here in a minute. But the main things you're going to be doing is like moving your different wizards across the board in an effort to find those crystals, right? So you can move up to 4 spaces with a single wizard. You can split it up. You can use all 4 of your points for movement. And, you know, that's simply just trying to get your wizards strategically in a spot. Now, you can also push other wizards, which is going to cost you 2 magic points if you push another wizard. And you have to be in line with them. And then you can squeeze wizards. And if you have wizards on either side of an opponent, you can squeeze them and basically crush them. Again, that's a 2-point action. And then you have shields that you can tap into. And if you have any crystals, that's going to dictate how much power it takes to use a shield. So for every crystal you have, it will add an extra point of power needed to activate a shield. And then you have regeneration, because your wizards will die, unfortunately, and you'll have to bring them back. And again, just like with shields, you're going to have to use extra power points to bring back wizards if you have crystals. So those are some of the main things you're going to be doing. And then of course you have spell cards. And those spell cards are basically free to use from your hand. They're not going to cost you any of your magic points, as well as any tiles that you've picked up to use. And we'll take a closer look at the cards and the tiles here in a minute. But those things, those are kind of the basics of what you can do in your turn. You're going to be strategically moving across the board, trying to find those crystal tiles and be the last one standing there and hopefully get all 4. Or, you know, you can really set the limit to whatever you want for how long you want the game to go. So you could play a game where you only have to get 2 crystals. All right, let's take a closer look at these tiles. You have immediate effect tiles, you have the gather tiles, and your pickup tiles. So the immediate effect is pretty obvious here. The portals allow you to move around the map, and if there's only one side of the portal is available, then you'll move back to home. The curse tiles are dreaded and terrible. It will kill your wizard. And then you've got the gather tiles, and at the start of your turn, if you're standing on one of these, different effects will happen. Obviously, the main goal is to be on a crystal tile, so you can be the first to gather all the different crystals. But you have the swamp tile and you have the cauldron. The swamp will give you less magic points if you're standing on it for this turn. The cauldron will give you extra power points on this turn. And then you have the pickup tiles that once you have them in your hand, you can use them whenever you want. The stair step here gives you the ability to move diagonal on the map. The potion gives you an extra power point. The magnifying glass is going to allow you to look at a tile that's face down on the board. And you have the compass potions as well. North, south, east, west that allow you to move in those directions. And then you have the card token that basically allows you to pull another magic card. And then you've got the lever or the switch, and the switch allows you to switch tiles on the board. So there's a lot of powerful things going on here, a lot of things to keep in mind, but these pickup tiles are definitely a highly sought after item. And then the third step of your turn is going to be all about the discover phase. And it's not just for you. Any wizard standing on a face down tile is going to reveal that tile. And there might be an instant effect like I showed you. You know, you could travel through a warp, you could be wiped out by a curse, some pretty bad things. You could end up on a gather tile, which won't really do anything until the start of your next turn. Or you might land on a tile that is a pickup tile. And those pickup tiles are super powerful. As I showed you, they really can add a lot to what you're doing and how you're going to do things in your next turn. And then lastly, the last thing you do in your turn will be to draw a new spell card. And the spell cards are such that you can only hold 2 at any one time. So you draw a card, and if you have 3, because you've been holding on to things, then you can make a choice about which of the 3 you want to get rid of, but you can only hold on to 2. Now let's take a quick look at some of the different spells. So these spell cards can be real game changers. So let's take a closer look at them. Life is awesome because you use the spell card just to bring a wizard back from death. And then you've got mind control. Mind control is great. Obviously, you can grab control of one of your opposing wizards and move them into particularly bad places. Regroup is nice because if your wizards are spread across the board, you can pull them back together. Teleport is just like it sounds. You can move to different places on the map. Transpose is nice because then you can do swapping positions with wizards, which is pretty nice. And then you have the knighthood, which works like a knight in chess. You have that same movement in that L shape, and that might really move you into a strategic place, you know. And gust is just pushing other wizards around using wind. You have a giant leap, which allows you to move multiple spaces and basically, like it says, a giant leap across the board. Fireball, obviously you're going to be throwing fire at your fellow wizards and taking them out. Electric net is really cool. So this current and net is pretty slick because if you create like the pattern shows here, you've got your 4 wizards surrounding wizards in the middle, you can electrify them. It's crazy. Earthquake is really interesting because it can affect the whole corner of a board in one of the compass directions and move everybody. And Dragonheart might be one of the most powerful cards in the game, giving you 4 extra power points or magic points for your turn. And then Curse, again, works like the curse tiles. You can basically wipe out a wizard, and then you have tokens to put in place and so forth. And then you've got Freeze, which again you have tokens for. You can freeze a wizard in direct line of sight, and those are kind of the main cards that you're going to be tapping into. Lots of powers here and lots of things to help you get those crystals. And so play continues much like this round and round until either one of 2 things happens. One player gathers all 4 crystals. The first one to do so would win the game, or you are the last wizard standing. Alright folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview. However, everything you've seen here is pretty much a production copy. You know, I have an early production copy here, but this is pretty much final. So it is a beautiful looking game. I like the little wizards, right? Everything about it is pretty thematic because those spell cards and the different tokens that you can gather in your hand really give you that sense of a wizard battle back and forth, trying to strategically place your wizard in a spot to gather those crystals. But ultimately, folks, if this looks like something that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching the Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool Stuff, in stock. Check them out at coolstuffinc.com.